can never sleep well in hotels. I guess this is somewhat of an understatement. I can never sleep well in general, but hotels were the worst. Just the thought that the previous occupant of this bed is a complete stranger was repulsive in my mind. But that's beside the point. What I'm getting at is how this lack of sleep in hotels changed my life. Christmas. We were spending Christmas in a shitty hotel and not with family. Great. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't enjoy the all-you-can-eat buffet with soggy hash browns and grits for Christmas Eve dinner. Of course, the first snow of the season had to cancel our flight down to Virginia. It was Christmas Eve, and I was trying to sleep in a bleach-saturated room. My mind wondering what happened in here to cause such an excessive amount of bleach needed. The room was nothing out of the ordinary. 2 beds. One for me and my dad, another for my sister and mom. A bathroom, and a stained microwave that looked in need of a good dusting. Somehow I escaped the room and the stench of bleach into a dreamless sleep. Waking up, I could tell it was early morning. My dad was next to me, snoring, and he usually wakes me up before 4 a.m. That's when it hit me. It's Christmas, and I was about to let this bad fortune ruin my favorite holiday. Looking across the bed at the clock to check the time is when I noticed it. A silhouette of a man, about 6'3", across the room, staring at my mom's sleep. Still half asleep as I caught up in the I couldn't help thinking of Santa Claus. I realized how stupid the thought was, and horror soon filled my head. I choked back a shriek. I knew I couldn't let him see me awake, so I quietly put my head back down and pretended to sleep. My mind was racing. Someone was in the room, and I couldn't do anything. I was a scrawny 16-year-old. This man looked built like an ox. I wondered if I could wake up my dad up in time, but I knew it wouldn't work. He slept like a rock. A bucket of water couldn't get him up fast enough. I was particularly in tears. I'd never felt so helpless. For a second time, I choked back a scream. He was standing next to me. I could feel and hear his repulsive breath on my face. It smelled like he'd been eating rotten meat for a week now, and with no thought of brushing his teeth. If he didn't know I was awake, surely he did now. Seeing my face was contorted in fear. The breathing stopped and I couldn't help but sigh in relief. I would have kicked myself, but there was no need. I heard the room door open and close. I launched myself out of bed. Nothing in the room was in disarray, and my family was still asleep. That couldn't have been a dream. I couldn't have imagined it. Feeling awake as ever, a horrible idea popped into my head, and before I could push it away, I was pulling the door open. Glancing back to the door in order to memorize the room under, I saw a giant spray-painted black X on the door. Had I seen this without the prior experience, I would have thought that this was just some stupid kids. I knew better, but not enough to know what it was for. My heart skipped a beat. There he was, turning the corner at the end of the hall. Why am I doing this? I tailed him down in the parking lot. He was nowhere to be seen. One moment he's walking out of the lobby, and the next, he's gone. Realizing how cold it is outside in my paper-thin pajamas, I returned to the lobby. No one was around. Strange. I could have sworn there is usually a night concierge. Adrenaline wearing off, I realized how stupid and rash my actions have been. He could have killed me. I cursed myself back up the stairs. I knew something was wrong when I got to my floor. The door of my room was wide open. I hadn't left it in that way, right? I walked inside, and after a quick search of the room, I determined it's safe. My family was still asleep. I locked the door and got back into bed, though I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I listened to my dad get up, and eventually my mom followed, but I still pretended to sleep. A few hours passed, and my parents got my sister and I up. We got in the car and made our way back to the airport, digging through my bag to grab my iPod and to find something that hadn't been there the previous day. A note that simply held 5 words, and I still think about it to this day. I knew you were awake. It's now been 2 months since the hotel experience. I'm still scared for my life, and it gets worse every day. That note I found wasn't the only one. I still receive them